It is lesson 11, part 2, and we're going to start integrating our file upload process now into the rest of our PHP Flix application. So the first thing we want to be able to do is when we add a movie, we want to have the option to also attach a file to it. Now, if we go and look in the database for a moment, I'm pretty sure way back near the beginning of the term, when we created our movies table, we already added a column for the image. Now there are a couple of ways we can store files. So if we look at our table structure for a moment, we'll see that the image is actually stored as a string. So there's two ways we can store files. We can either store them as a string, where we don't store the file itself in the database, we really are just storing the file name in the database. We could also use the file type of blob for binary large object and embed the actual file that got uploaded itself in the database. Most applications simply store the file names as a string, as text, rather than storing the whole file, because when we store the whole file, the database gets very big. It can be very expensive from a hosting perspective, and also the bigger the database is, the slower it is. So it makes queries and it makes our applications run slow. So it is an option. You may prefer to use a blob and actually save the file itself to the database, but for simplicity and performance, I've found this is generally the better practice. Just store the file name as a string in the database. So we've already got a column called image, where if we add a browse to, then we can save it. Correct, Tyler. Just the file name is fine. That's what I would recommend, is just store the file name in the database, not the file itself as a blob. So we're going to modify our movie details. We need to add the encoding type attribute to the form, and then we will want a file upload box here for the image. So let's open up our movie details in our root folder. And I've got my form here on line 46, so about halfway down the page. Here's our form. So we will need to add our encoding type of multi-part form data. So I'm going to add that attribute into my form tag, and you will be doing the same in your assignment. So that your form can support the uploading of a file. We'll add that attribute. Then we're going to scroll down near the bottom of our form. So after my last field set, but above our hidden input, we're going to add on a new field set. We'll give it a margin of 1, just like our other field sets. And then we'll put on a label and a file input. So I'll have a label, and then we'll put on an input. Our type is file, and we will call it, give it a name of an ID of image, because that matches the column in the database that we've set up that will store any image names. Now this is going to we'll have to come back and make more changes to this page later when we're going to be a little more complicated when we're editing a movie. because we're going to check, is there already an existing image in the database? If there is, we'll want to display it, and then also allow the user to modify it to upload a different image. So we'll just start with adding when we're adding a new movie, and this field is not required. We don't have to attach a movie poster. Okay, so there's the field set that we're adding below our genre field set. So now our page looks like this. We have one more row with a label, and now we can browse. Now on Blackboard, I've also grabbed, and I'll maybe make a note on my homepage, I've grabbed the movie poster images for a number of movies. Just see whether I included them. Okay, yes. So if you want these images, I mean, we can use any images you like, really, for testing, but I've zipped and uploaded these to Blackboard. So in the Lesson 11 folder, there's a zip file here, the movie poster images. So if you click on it, you can save these to your downloads folder. It's a zip file called movies.zip. So you could download it and then just extract it. So once you open this, extract the zip file, you'll see there are 6 movie posters here. 5 of them we already have in the database, and then I've added a new one because we're going to add a new movie, and we'll add the poster. So download that file from Blackboard. Later on, I'll also make a note on my homepage that the images are from Wikipedia. So we're now going to need to modify our Save Movie page to check if the user uploaded an image along with the new movie details. We want to save. We want to save that image here in our IMG folder. And we also want to take the name of the image and include it when we save to the database, so that the image will not be null. And we'll also have to make sure that that image name is unique. So if that image name already exists, we're not overwriting it. So we've got a fair bit of work to do on our Save Movie page. So let's be sure we open that up. So we're also going to add now image equals, and again, this is where we're going to use our files collection. So this might be empty, it might not be. Because the movie poster, it's not required. We could add a movie and we don't have to add the poster. But we're going to check it. So we've got this image variable now. So I'm going to scroll down underneath my existing validation. So if there is an image upload, we're going to validate it. So we'll say if not empty, so if our image variable isn't empty, we will want to validate it. So we'll create a variable here called name equals so first we'll get the file name. Then we want to get the temp location. Now we want to check the file type. We don't really care about the file size, but we want to make sure somebody didn't upload a PDF or a Word document, only a JPEG or a PNG. So we will say if we're going to use MIME content type. If it does not equal image/PNG, we'll put that in round brackets, and also if it doesn't equal image/JPEG. Not a PNG, and it's also not a JPEG, then we're going to generate an error message. And we'll say OK is false. So we will stop the processing of our script if the user adds any kind of file that is not a valid image file. We can actually test this out right now. So we can go and start creating a new movie, and you can upload any file that's not a PNG or JPEG, an Excel document, text file, Word, anything on your computer, and we should see this message. Image must be in PNG or JPEG format, and nothing should be saved to the database. So there's our new block of code so far. So before we actually save a valid file, we can try an invalid one and make sure that our validation checking is working correct. Save that. And oh, yes, Tyler, there is. We can do it in the form as well. Thank you for mentioning that. We will do that there as well. Good point. We'll add that in a minute. Great suggestion. So I'll call this, just test one. So I'm going to browse, but I'm going to make sure I pick something that is not. There, I'll just grab an Excel file. So I should get a message, an error message here, which I do. Good. I didn't get any message saying my movie was saved. If I go and look in the database, there should be no new movies. But yes, Tyler, we can also filter it. So when the user clicks browse, notice it defaults to all files. So we can change this as well in our form. That's a good idea. So if I go back to the movie details, in my input type equals file, bear with me, I have to find okay, I think file type equals, and I think here we put in .png, .jpg. We'll try it like this. I might separated by commas. I think that will filter the file upload box. We'll try it. Around so you can see the change I've made. Oops. So I've added this file type equals. So now when I browse, no, okay, that was not right. Okay, there is a way to do it. Let's just check. HTML form upload. There is an attribute. I just didn't do it quite right to accept. Need. It's the, I think, accept image / star. So any kind of image. I did it totally wrong. Accept. Let's try that. Or maybe that's where we put in PNG, JPG. We'll try it we'll try it a few different ways. There, okay. So I don't want all images because, for example, I don't want GIFs or SVGs. So I use the accept attribute and I can specify the allowed file extension. Now the user can change them, but that it defaults to just the file extensions that we specify. Thank you for that suggestion, Tyler. That is a good idea that we should include that. If you only want a Word document or PDF, then you could specify .doc, docx, or .pdf. So now what we want to do is save the file to the images directory, but before we do, we want to generate a unique name. So we don't want to overwrite any file that already exists with the same name. So what we'll do is we can use, there's a number of different ways of doing it. I'll just make a call to the PHP method called session ID. This gives us the unique ID of each browser session. And we will just append this on to the beginning of the file name. So for example, poster.png will become something like so this way, if we have two files called poster.png, each one is going to get some kind of unique random string as part of the name. And now move from cache to img with new unique name. So then we're going to move from the temp directory to the images folder, and we're appending on our unique name. So this is going to give that file a name so it won't overwrite, and it's going to save it up into our images, our IMG directory that right now has our show and hide. So that'll save the file, but we also need to modify our code below. When we add the movie to the database, we also now want this unique name to be saved to the image column. So first we'll modify our insert. We'll deal with the update later. So I'm going to add the image column name, and I'll add a new parameter also called image. And then we're going to add a new parameter here as well. Okay, Elena, I'll show you why. Let me go back to the test. Bear with me for a minute. It's a fair question. So let me make two images. So there's a movie poster 1 in red. Okay, Elena, I'm going to go and use my original test first, okay? But we'll see why. You don't have to follow along. This is just for example, okay? So I'm going to go and upload So I'm going to upload poster 1 in red, okay? And movie 1 is my description. So if we look in my images, so you can see, right? Here's poster 1. With me so far? And the file is called poster.png. Okay. But now some other user comes to the upload page. They also have a file called poster.png. But it's for movie 2. That's this image. So I have two different files, but they have the same name. What do you think will happen when I now upload a second file called poster.png? So remember, I've got two of them. Right? They're both called poster.png. Here's 1, and here's 2. Right, so Hamid's saying it's going to, well, let's see. So now I submit the second one. Well, I didn't get an error, but what happened? So movie 2 uploaded successfully. There's no error. Now I can see in my upload. So what's the problem? Well, it's not wrong. I want both of them. But what happened to the movie 1 poster? Where did the movie 1 poster go? I had the red one showing up here, but it's now gone. Why is it gone? Right. It's replaced because both the files are called, right? Here's poster 1. It's called poster.png. It's red. I uploaded this one first, then I uploaded another file in blue with the same name. So the behavior is replacing. So this one uploaded, but now the red one is gone. So think about why this is so important. Imagine Blackboard. So Elena, what would happen? Let's say on Blackboard, you upload assignment2.zip, right? When you submit your assignment and you upload this file. Sorry, so if you upload that on Wednesday, what happens on Thursday if Tyler uploads a file with the same name? What could happen to your file if another student's file has the same name as yours? Right. So that would be a really bad thing, right? If 2 users uploaded a file with the same name and we replaced one. So we, of course, don't want that to happen. So with this code, where we generate a unique ID, this will mean we are creating a unique name for every file before we save it. So there is no file replacing, right? Because when one user uploads files, they don't know what file names other users might upload. So we don't want to overwrite anybody's files. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Okay, great. It's a very good question. So I wanted to show you how this works, right? If I go and upload the red poster again, right? Now the red one's here and the blue one's gone. This is the same. So we're going to use this session ID as part of the file name so that no files will get overwritten. Excellent question. I'm glad you asked. So we've added the image column and parameter, and now we need to bind it. Now it might be empty. If the user doesn't, if we don't upload an image, then that value is just going to be empty or null, which is fine. So we're going to fill the image parameter. And we're just using our name variable here. So we're just passing in the name of the image to the database. We're not saving the file itself in the database. We're only saving the image name to the database as a string. The file itself we're going to save to the img folder. And then we're going to generate a unique name and save that unique name into the database. I mean, you could do that as well. Yeah, the only danger is if you use date and time, it's still possible if we have thousands of users on the site, it's possible that 2 users could upload a file with the same name at the same time. So you could do that, but the session ID, we know that 2 users can't share the same session ID. But 2 users could possibly upload a file of the same name at the same date and time. Is it likely? No. So if you want to use, this is not the only way to do it. This is just one way of trying to generate a unique file name. There are other ways as well. Maybe you would include the user ID, for example, because they have to be logged in to do this. So that'd be another way of doing it. So make sure we bind the parameter. And now we can try it out. I'm going to add a new movie and use the movie poster for that movie. So this movie I don't have in my database. Now you can use any images you like. You don't have to upload the correct movie posters. So I'm going to add The Usual Suspects, which is one of my favorite movies. That movie is not in our site yet. It's not here, so I'm going to go ahead and add it. $19.95. So now I'm going to click Browse. I'll go to my zip folder that I downloaded and extracted. I'm going to pick this image, but you can pick any image you like. So the file is called theusualsuspects.jpg. And I'll try to save it. Okay, so that's encouraging. It says the movie saved. And it now shows in my list, so that's good. But did the image actually work? Is the movie poster saved to our IMG folder? And is the name of that in our database? We can look at both of these things. So I'll go to my PHP Flicks, go to the IMG folder, and now I can see here is my poster, and we can see it has this long string at the beginning of the file name. That's the session ID. And it will be unique for each browser. So if I go to Chrome and upload a file, I will get a different session ID. So I'm actually just going to try that so we can see how this works and how it prevents that file overwriting that we just watched. We'll do that in a minute. I'm also going to look in my database now. So if I run my query, I can now see my new movie, The Usual Suspects. It's copied that unique file name and saved it to the database. So we now have a link between this record in the database and this file that we've uploaded. So the session ID for my Firefox session, it starts with 5AU. So this seems to be working properly, but I want to check and make sure if I use a different browser, so I'm going to have a different session ID. So I'm going to create just a test movie file here. I'm going to have to log in. So I'm going to add another movie, which I will delete after. Test. I'm going to choose the same movie. Sorry, the same movie poster. So I'm going to choose The Usual Suspects again. So what I want to verify is that this version of the file doesn't get overwritten. I should get two different versions with a different session ID now. So when I save, you'll notice my original file now has not been overwritten. It's not deleted. So this is my Firefox file, and this is my Chrome file. So we can upload multiple files with the same name. Yes, we can debug. Okay, so this was our file type check, Daniel, that you were asking. Okay, Sarah, just check here. This, make sure this is TMP underscore name here. And Daniel, you have the encoding type attribute in your form. So Sarah, I hate to do this. Like I've used camel case for my variable, even though they've used underscores. I'm just not in the habit of using underscores. We've used camel case. Okay, I may have to peek at it, Daniel. I'm sure it's something small. So this is working now. We can display an image. We can add an image successfully when we are adding a new movie. Now, I also should check that I can add a movie and just leave the movie poster blank. I want to make sure I haven't broken anything, that it will just save my image as null. I will put the code up on GitHub in a minute as well. So I'll just refresh here. I can get rid of this test movie. Now I'm going to add a movie with no poster. So I'm not going to browse. I want to make sure that that still works okay. Ah, okay. So good thing we tested this. There is a little problem. So our check isn't quite working here. It's trying to validate even when I didn't upload any file. Good thing we checked. So it's crashing. So this check isn't quite working. I think instead of the image itself, we have to check if the name property is empty. So I'm going to add that to line 43 and see if that fixes my error. Go back and refresh. There. Okay, so yes, it skips over all of our checking and saving of the file if there is no file name. So now I was able to add a movie without any movie poster. So we're only going to do this code. This is only going to run if there is a file name, meaning the user uploaded something. If they didn't upload anything, we can skip it all. And then our image name just defaults to null, which is fine. So our code seems to be working the way it should when adding a new movie, but we also want to incorporate this when we are editing a movie, because we have all these movies in our database right now with no images. I should be able to click on one, see the current image if there is one, and then upload. So right now we've only added the code when we are inserting. So we also want to be able to add a movie when we're uploading. So I'm going to, first of all, add that to our update statement as well. Image equals :image. I'm going to add this to the update statement. And then I'm going to try to attach a movie poster to one of the existing movies. I'm going to add it here as well. So now I've got The Godfather 2. My movie poster for that is here, The Godfather Part 2. It's this all black poster. So I'm going to see when I save and update, we don't see the movie poster yet. We will add those. We want to be able to actually, the whole point of uploading them is so that the movie posters show in our site. But if I go and look, I can now see The Godfather Part 2 is in my images folder. And if I run my query again, the image should change from null. So now it shows me the file name that I just attached. So I could go and edit my other movies. And attach those movie posters as well. I'll do the rest of them after. So our file uploading and our code for linking the movie files, the image files to the movie records seems to be working when we are both adding and updating. Now, though, we'll have to do a little bit more with it. It's not complete. So you're getting the same, okay, same issue that Daniel had. One thing to very carefully check here is this is image/JPEG. That's the actual MIME content type, I believe. So Daniel, it's saving your files, but it's still, okay, I might have to look. So Sarah, are your files saving? You guys may be having the same issue. I will hopefully have time to look at it. So we're also going to want to modify both our movies. If you check, you just connect and run the query select star from movies. That will show you everything that's in your movies table. You can also look in the IMG directory and see if those movie posters are visible. So when I look, I see the movie posters. Okay, so it is working, and the movie posters are there in the images folder as well. Okay, but both you and Daniel, you're getting this message. Okay, I may have to see your code to figure out why. I'm also going to upload this to GitHub shortly. So what we're going to do, I'm going to push this, we're going to take a break in a minute, and then we're going to need to make some modifications. If we're adding to the database, yes, Tyler, we need both. We need to store the actual file itself, and then in the database, we're storing the link or the path to the file. We need both those. Because if we only store the file name, but we don't actually copy the image, then we can't display the file. So ultimately, we want to include the movie posters. We're going to modify this page after our break. We're going to show them as a thumbnail. And then when we are editing a movie, if there is an existing movie poster, we also want to display the full-size poster on this page. And so we're only the purpose of putting them in the database is so we can actually display the images. Yes, it would. You could just save them as a blob that way, correct. I just find it's not great for database performance. So I prefer just to store the names as strings. Right? So I'm going to upload to GitHub. When we come back, we're going to display the thumbnails here. We'll display the full-size images here. And then we're also going to have to modify the logic a bit in case we update a movie, but we don't want to change the poster. We don't want it to be overwritten, which we'll see can happen. So we're going to take a break here. I'm going to upload to GitHub. We will come back at 10, and we'll have time to implement the rest of that. If you're getting an error, give me a second to get my code up on GitHub and maybe compare what you've got with what I've got. Okay, we will be back at 10.